Hey, what's up guys? So welcome back to this part number 2. So in my very first part where you have learned about how we can create the API using Laravel, right? Now in this video, with the help of Angular as a front end, we are able to upload the image and save into our database, right? So let's jump in and get started for the installation. It's a very basic installation that I've done in my all the old videos. So all you need to do is to just get started and make sure you have your Node.js installed in your system. And then if you have installed Node.js, then the second thing that you need to do is to just install by having few steps to follow, which is just let me go to the getting started, and I should need to go to the setup, and that's where the few commands that you need to run if you're using CLI of Git Bash, right? So I already have run my server for my backend. So make sure you have, if you have watched my part number 1 where I've explained how we can create the API, and the second video, let's create another project for the front end, right? So I've opened up my Git Bash, simply right click on it. You can use your CMD, whatever you feel comfortable with. So let's just paste that command, right? Actually, I just need to clear that out and run that again, right? So just copy that from here and paste it right here, and this is going to install the Angular CLI globally. All right, so the second step that you need to do is to just simply type ng new and the name of the application, right? So just after that, you need to install the ng means that it's Angular, and make sure that you have your Node installed as explained. And if you have any confusion while installing, it's all very basic. So I hope this is going to take a few minutes or so. All right, so now it's installed. Let's run the second command, which is the ng new and name of the application, which I want here, image underscore upload dash Angular, or you can use front end. All right, so this is going to take some time, and I will be right back once it's installed. All right, now the Angular application has been installed successfully, so I need to open up on my VS Code terminal. So you just need to press simply type code and space dot, and that's going to open up the VS Code for you. All right, so I just want to open up right here, and I have my Angular application needs to be run, so I need to change that directory, and it should be image dash upload dash front end. So just simply go to the cd to that directory, and now if I just type code space dot, and this is going to open up the complete application, the installation of this complete file, right? So we have our VS Code running, and we have our file application directory inside our VS Code, and I need to run the server. So let's go and run here ng server. All right, so this is going to install the Angular application for us. Now here I have used Bootstrap here, so I need to go to the bootstrap.com. So get bootstrap.com and just simply grab the CDN from here. So let's go and grab the CSS only. So just copy that and just add it inside our source and index.html file, right? So basically this file comprises of this app-root directory, which should be inside your app, and everything that you see on the browser, it should be all coming from the app.component.html file. So make sure that basically this is the root directory, app-root, right? So the entry point of the application. So I just want to grab and paste here the Bootstrap CDN right here, and let's save it. And let's go back to the, let's have a see, the application is compiled successfully, and let's have localhost port number 4200, and that's where you see that now the name of the application, the title, which is image upload front end, and just like here that the name of the title, it should be all there, right? So everything that you see here, it should all inside your app.component.html file, right? Which is the entry point, right? So just want to clear that all, and you see now we have the blank screen, right? And I have used here Bootstrap, which help us to create the very basic layout for the application. So let's go and create the container first. The container class let us to put everything inside into the center. So let's grab the container class, and inside the container I'm going to grab here a header, and inside header let's get the h3 tag, and h3 comprises of the bg-dark, which is the background dark color, and I want the color to be text-white. Let's give it some padding p-4, and want the text to be center, so text-center. Let's give it the file upload in Angular and Laravel. All right, so that should be the very basic header for it. Right underneath that, just create a form, a very basic form which has no action required, and inside form I'm going to grab here form-group, which is basically a class for the Bootstrap for the form. And let's get the label for the image, so let's give it the name of for image, and give it the name of post image, and let's down here and give it the input type of file. So let's use here, with the help of image, I use here input : file. That's going to give it automatically the name and the ID. So let's give it the name of the image, and if you want to give the ID of image, that's still fine. And I need to give it a class, which is the Bootstrap class, for make the form little bit look much better. So we have a class of form-control, and right after the this div, the current div, I need to give here the submits button. So let's go underneath that div and create a very basic button here. So button type of I think so this is gonna generate the type of submit, and let's give it the class of bdn dash dark or primary, whatever you feel comfortable with, and give it a bdn dash sm for small. And if I just want to give some margin from the top for, and give it the submit. All right, or you can give it the upload, whatever text you feel comfortable with, right? So now we have our very basic form and structure. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do here is let's go inside the VS Code and do some changes. So I have to do here is to first add the form. We have to add a directive, which is the ng submit. So I'm going to add that one, and here inside the ng submit I'm going to create a function, and that function should be on submit function. And when I'm going to upload that, so this is going to add us the upload the file for us, right? So depending on if that is submitted, if that is true, so this is going to submit the form, right? So let's going to create that function inside our app.component.ts file. And because we are using reactive form, so I need to import here some kind of a service like for the form group. So let's import that here. So import form group, and it also comprises of the validators for the validation, and I also need the form builder to build a form. So this should be coming from the Angular /forms. All right, so just underneath that I have to also use a model, which I have to create first. So in order to create a model, I need to go here inside my terminal, and let's add here ngg for generate, s for, so I'm going to create here a class. So just create here a class with the name of equal to post, and that should have the type of equal to model. All right, so there should no equal to, right? So let's generate that, and so this is going to create the class with the name of post. So let's go inside the post.model.ts file, and this model should have our so the benefit of having this command is just simply we can create this export class post with the help of dash type equal to model, right? So I need to define here image, and let's give it the type of any, which could be anything, right? So that's the first phase of it, and let's define it inside the app.component.html, right? So I need to import here the model here. So the name of the model, that is the post model, and it should be, oops, actually, so it should be coming from the /and post.model. All right. So I'm also going to use here a service with which is basically the ngx toaster. So let's going to open up that too. So ngx toaster, which is the npm package, that's going to install the that's really much helpful for installing and showing the beautiful toaster messages for the, so when something is submitted or something went wrong, right? So let's gonna add that and install that first. So npm install ngx toaster, right? So I'm gonna go inside here and just simply press enter. And next thing I'm gonna do here is I have to set up a few more steps. I need to add that inside my angular-cli. So let's gonna copy that, and it should bring, let's bring it inside the styles array, right? So I'm gonna go inside my angular-cli, right? So that should be, I believe it should be to our route. So angular.json, right? And let's go inside your styles array, and let's bring this inside here, right? So this should be the ngx-toaster.css, and next we have to add it inside our app.module.ts file, and as well as we have to define that form module just because we are submitting the form. So let's go inside your app.module.ts file as well. So that should be app.module.ts file, and let's add here the HTTP client module, which we have to add for the service later on. So first I have to add here forms module. So import, so we have to import, so imports form module, and we also have to add here something which is known as reactive form modules for the validation, right? So let's add that too. So reactive form module, and again it's all coming from the angular/forms. All right, oops, it should be angular/forms. All right, so that's fine. And I'm also going to add here a service for the toaster. So just like we did, so import the toaster service, so toastr module, and that should be coming from the ngx-toaster, right? All right, so that's fine. And we also need to add here something which is known as browser animation module. So let's add that too. This is, again, this is for the animation. So browser, this should be browser animation module, and that should be coming from the angular/platform dash browser slash animations. All right, so there's something wrong, I believe. Browser animations actually it should be S, right? Okay, so that's fine for here, and let's import all those services, all the modules inside the imports, right? So the first we have the forms module, so let's add that too. Next we have the we have our browser animation module as well. So browser animation module. Next we have our reactives form module. All right, so that's it, and just saves it, and I hope we are good to go, right? So let's go inside the documentation. We all did that, and now we have to import that inside the app.component.html, which I believe I haven't did that yet. Yeah. So let's go inside the app.component.ts file, and we have to add here the service for the toaster. So import, and we have to define here toaster, toastr service from the ngx-toaster, right? Oops, actually again I need to bring this inside the single quotes. All right, so it's saying something wrong. So toaster service from ngx- it should be toaster, right? Not the ter, right? Okay, so that's fine, and I've defined the form group, and let's define that all inside the constructor. So I'm gonna create here a constructor right underneath that. So we don't need any title here, so just skip that from here, and let's create our constructor. So we have to define here private. First we have to define something which is known as toaster, so, and that should be equal to the toaster service. And next we have our form builder. So let's gonna add that right after that. So private. Um, so let's add some brackets here. So private, and that should be equal to form, private form builder, and that should be equal to form builder. All right, so that's fine for the constructor. And next we have to define here a function, and that function should have the form. And basically whenever we are using form builder, we have to define the form group inside the form tag, right? So let's define here something which is known as form group, and each form group must have the form control name, which we have to define inside the input attribute. So let's gonna define first form group, and that should be equal to whatever the name. So I'm gonna give it the name of form, and because we are using form group, so we have to define the form control name as well. So let's define the form control name. That should be equal to the image, and we have to define here a directive as well. So a change directive. So we need to upload a file. So I'm going to use here a directive with the name of change, and that should be equal to the upload image, and we have to pass here the event to get the file name and the target name file, right? So I'm going to show you just in a little while. We have to use here another directive, which is the ng class. So this will help us to show the validation with the help of CSS or with the help of Bootstrap. So right now we are going to use here a class of Bootstrap, which is the is-invalid, and that's going to check if it's submitted, and if it contains some errors, so this is going to generate some error, right? So if it's submitted, means that it will submit it, and if it shows some error, and later on I'm going to show you from where this f is coming from. So let's first defines that here. So f dot it should be image, right? So we have the form control name, which is image. So let's define that here, and down underneath that we have to define here a directive ng if. So this gonna check, and this gonna check if it's submitted, and it should have the errors. So f dot image dot errors, right? And we have to define here another class which is invalid, which is again like a dark background border color red. So this helps us for the invalid dash feedback, and we have to define here a message as well. So let's define here another div here, and that should again have the directive of ng if. So we have to see if that contains some error. So f dot image dot errors, errors should be, so f dot image dot errors dot required, because it's a required field, so we have to show here message that image is required. All right, so I hope that's it for now, and let's go back here, and still it's keep going to show us the error here. It says that upload image event is not defined. So let's first define that here inside our component.ts file. So I need to define that right after the, so app.component.html, and let's define here a method. So upload image, and basically we pass here the event. So let's pass here, and we need to extract the files. So let's define here an object with the name of this.files, and we have to pass here, so files should have type any. So this.files equal to, we need to get the target of the file. So, and basically I pass here the index 0, basically because we need to get the file name attribute first. So we only need to get the file. So let's console the log and check this out. So if I saves it, and it says that the property submitted does not exist on type app component. All right, so let's first define the submitted here. So I by default I just give it the submitted to be equal to false. Let's check this out again, and says now property f does not define, right? So we have to set here a function get. We have to get a function here. So I need to define right underneath that. Let's get function, and this form, now it will actually get the control of the form. Now in order to get it, I need to first define it right after that form, and it should be equal to form group. Now basically this is coming from this, right? So this form group is passed to this, and we have to define it inside the app.component.ts file. And now if I just define this dot form dot controls. All right, so I hope this is gonna work. I need to return that, right? Okay, so let's go back and check this out. Now it still keeps showing us the error unexpected token, expected identifier keyword, right? So I need to go and check inside my app.component.html. So it's showing the error right here, invalid dash feedback. So there we go. So ng if, so if it's submitted, and yeah, I just forgot to bring a double and, right? Now let's go back. Now property on submit does not exist on type app component. All right, so yeah, I have to define here another function, basically this on submit function, which is by default. With the help of service, we are able to submit the form, right? So just creates that. And now if I go back and refresh this, still no, we can't view the, so it's still showing us the errors, that toaster service injection token. All right, so let's go inside here, and actually I have to go to the app.module.ts file, and I just forget to import the toaster module. So if you go to the documentation, and you have to define that inside your imports. So let's gonna copy that and paste it right inside the app.module.ts, and let's go back and check this out, right? So now if I go to my page, now we have here another issue, which is basically form group expects a form group instance, right? So we basically have to define here the form group, and which comprises of the image with the validator, right? So let's gonna define that inside our app.component.ts file. So right after the constructor, I have to create a function. So create form, and that form should have the this dot form. So this dot form equal to this dot form builder, and we have to have a group which consists of the image, which is by default null, and we have to apply here a validator of required. So validator dot required. Now without that it doesn't work, because we have to define that inside our ng on init method. So let's define that here. So ng on init, which is again a lifecycle hook. So ng on init. So again, we don't have to return anything. So let's give it the type of void, and let's call this dot create form, and go back to the browser. So still we have issues. It says it expects a form group instance, please pass one in, right? Right, so let's go inside here, and I actually forget to bring here ng on init. So basically it should be with the small I, right? So now if I go back and refresh this, everything works well. So if I click on the submits button, you see that nothing happens. And if I try to upload here at the image, so if I just try to grab any image, and this is going to give me the some kind of parameters here. So let's gonna look at it first. So we have the file, and inside here we have a bunch of properties and methods. So we have a name, we have the last modified, we have the last modified date. So basically these are all the objects, but we have the main concern with the name object. So let's gonna go back here, and we have done the very first phase of it. Right now if I try to refresh this and tries to click submits button, and it's nothing happens here. So we have to check and see, right? Now if I go to my on submit button, and by default I need to give it the this dot submitted equal to true. Now if it is submitted, and I need to make that submitted is false, which is fine, and I need to do here if that is submitted and it's equal to true. All right, so that should be equal to true. And now next thing I need to stop the form if it's invalid. So let's apply here a condition. So if this dot form dot invalid, if that is invalid, that should stop here, right? So let's go back and check this out, try to click the submits button, and here we go, right? So now we can see the validation is working. Now the invalid dash feedback is working, the basic image required is working, right? So we are all good with that. Now the last thing that I need to generate here is the service, right? So let's gonna generate a service, G for generate, S for service, and let's give it the name of the service to be data, or whatever you can give. You can give the name of post if you want. So I'm going to create here a service. So inside the service I'm going to define here, let's go inside the data.service.ts file, and I need to define here HTTP client, right? So HTTP client for basically for getting the HTTP the URL that we need to access, right? So HTTP headers, I can also pass here HTTP header, and that's all coming from the Angular slash common slash HTTP. All right, so that's fine, and we have to define the environmental variable as well. So in order to do that, I need to pass here the API URL. So I need to go to my environments folder, and inside environment.ts file we have to define here the API URL. So let's define that here, and which is equal to the localhost, which is the with the port number 8000. Now basically this URL is coming from the server that we have run from the Laravel application, right? So that's basically I passed here, and I need to import my environment here. So let's gonna define that here. So import the environment here, and that should be coming from the environment slash, and that should be inside the single quote. So from the environment slash environment. All right, so saves it, and we have some issues here. Environments, so environment slash environment. All right, so environment. All right, so that's fine. Now I have to define that inside the constructor, the service. So private HTTP client. So private HTTP colon HTTP client, and right inside that I have to define here a method. So basically this method will let us to get the URL, right? So upload data is the name of the method, and inside here I have to pass here the data, and we have to define the headers if we want. So headers equal to new HTTP headers. Actually it should be HTTP headers, and actually it should be outside of the constructor, so sorry about that. So it should be outside of the constructor, and that's where I need to return it. So return return this dot HTTP dot post, and we have to define here the environmental variable. So environment dot API URL, and that's where we have to concatenate that. So slash API slash file slash, and we have to pass here the data, right? It should be actually data. So something is wrong. Actually I forget to bring here plus, which is the concatenation, and that should be fine, right? Okay, now I need to pass here the headers if we want. So right after that, let's gonna add the headers and the headers. All right, so that's fine. And we have to go back to, something is wrong here actually, or that should be, yeah, it's not should be equal to, it should be colon, right? Now let's go back to the app.module.ts file and define the HTTP client, right? So I need to go to the app.module.ts file and define right after that. So import HTTP client module from the Angular slash common slash HTTP. All right, so now let's define that inside the imports. Right, so that's fine. Now we are done with here. We have to now define that inside our main method of the onSubmit. We have to subscribe it. So in order to do it, we have to run the service. So let's go inside your app.component.ts file, and once if it's submitted and everything is true, so I need to create here a form data, because we have to, whenever we are submitting the form, we are using here encryption part of multi-part slash form dash data. So for that, we have to apply here a technique. So new form data, and we have to append that form data dot append, and that should be dot append, and we have to append the image. So let's pass up here the files. So this object will return as the name, and we have to get the name. So this dot files dot name, right? So that's fine. We have to now run the service. So this dot actually I have to define the service first. So let's go inside here and define the service. So import data service from the that should be coming from the dot slash data dot service, right? And we have to define here a post object, post model. So post equal to new post for the model, right? So we have defined here the service. Let's define that inside the constructor. So private, that should be data service. All right. And now we have to define that inside our method. So this dot data service, the name of the method, which is upload data, which returns the data. So we have to define here form data, and we have to subscribe to get the response. So let's get the response. And okay, so we have to define a variable on top of it, which is the data, and define that right here. And inside this data, we have to define the response. So we can get the response with the help of Toaster. So this dot data equal to response, and if this dot data, or first I want to show you the console.log, that what we get. So I just get here this dot data. All right, so let's go back and refresh this. Everything looks fine. Make sure if you have installed the Toaster, make sure you can run your server again in order to if you can't find out the Toaster message. Sometime it happens, so for the confirmation. Now let's gonna add some image, and if I just try to click submits here, it says that API/file not found. Okay, so let's go to the web.php. Actually, it should be not file, it should be image. Let's gonna go and refresh this again and grab the image. So we are still keep having the same issues. It says the HTTP headers not found, right? So the environment is, let's go to the environmental variable. Let me check everything is fine here. 127. I think so. I have forget to define the HTTP here, right? So HTTP colon double slash. All right. So now if I go back and check it again, tries to click submits. Still it says 404. Now keep that URL the same, which was false. Now otherwise I need to check. Tries to click submits. Yeah, you see the post is saved successfully. And now if I go back to the database and show you, so we have the image underscore API, and let's go to the post, and there we go. So we actually I just need to confirm that. So it should be. Now if I try to click submits again, and this again post saved successfully, yeah, it's going to save it, right? So we are good to go, right? Now I need to show here some message, toaster message. So in order to show that, all I'm going to do here is, so right under, if I go to the app.component.ts file, just skip that here. And you see here inside the status we have true, and the message is post saved successfully. So we need to get the status object, or if I want to access the message, so in that case it should be this dot data dot message. In order to get the status, I need to define this dot data dot status, right? It all depends on you. So let's gonna add this here with the help of toaster. So with the help of toaster service, so this dot toaster dot success, which shows green color, and we have to show in the JSON. So JSON dot stringify. So this dot, actually this should be this dot data dot message. So it comprises of 2 parameters, so I need to keep that empty, the first one. And let's define here the timeout, which should be about 2 milliseconds, and progress bar, keep that true. All right. So just like for on the other case, if nothing happens, means that if the status, actually I forget to bring one more thing here. I need to define that. So I need to cut this out. I need to apply here a condition. So if this dot data dot status is equal to true, then show this message, right? And on the other case, else, we have to just simply copy that inside whatever is inside here, just change that to the error, and the message is whatever if something is went wrong. So on that case it's gonna show us the error, right? And after that I need to make this form, stop this form. So this dot submitted is again equal to false, and I need to clear the value. So this dot form dot get, and the name of which is the image, and I need to reset that, right? So let's save it, and now if I want to check this out, the validation is working, and let's get some other image, submits that, and there we go. You see here it shows us empty, right? But yeah, it's showing us the message that something is going on, but not showing the message. So let's go back and check, might be, yeah, spellings are wrong. So this dot data dot message, same here, and save it. And actually I need to close that, my mail. All right, so now if I just try to choose it, now let's click the submits button, and you see the post is saved successfully and the form is clear, right? So I hope you guys learned something out of it. It's a very good whole complete series where you will learn about how you can add the validation, how you can save the images and everything, right? So that's it guys, and I want to see you in the next videos.